Rebel Moon is the new Zack Snyder two-part movie on Netflix. Part 1 has been released and it's called A Child of Fire. Zack Snyder says it's an idea that's been lurking in his mind for over 30 years. The problem is, the script feels like it took him 3 weeks to put together. Did we really need a 7-minute exposition dump about the main character, Kora? That's 7 minutes of tell, don't show. That's over 5% of the movie.
Well, that sucks.
Hey everyone, I'm Danny Alex. Welcome back to Poprageous. It would be safe to say that when anyone goes out to make a movie, including Zack Snyder, they're going to make the best film possible based on resources they have available. Budgets, talent, scripts, and so on. But the one thing that is always at the center of every movie, it's the screenplay. That's the Bible, the fulcrum, the source where all of the visuals emerge or they're at least inspired from. It's the screenplay that contains visual cues and descriptions to inspire the director to recreate what the writer had envisioned.
Should we read it now?
In this case, Zack Snyder is the director and one of the 3 writers. The reality is that every movie made is going to feel like or will be a rip-off of something that came before it. Everything has, for the most part, already been done. It's like music. There are 12 notes in an octave, 7 notes in a scale, that's it. Your 3 main chords are your major root, your major fourth, your major fifth. You can't invent new chords or notes if you're writing a new original song.
Come, sing me a song.
So you have to find new ways to arrange them to create an original musical piece. Everyone gets the same notes to play with. And the same goes for movies. Rebel Moon doesn't do anything that hasn't been done before, and that's fine. It's in the details and how the plot and story unfold that lends originality to the story that the movie tries to tell. The problem with Rebel Moon is that it's mired in stereotypical story and plot elements that don't give the audience anything new to chew on. Having your main antagonist look exactly like a Third Reich officer from the Nazi army does not give the viewer any new stimulus in their brain to envision. It invokes immediate and familiar images in one's mind that bears no resemblance of an original idea.
Cocksucker Nazi bastard.
The story idea of having over-the-top, aggressive soldiers who terrorize a small town and then look to violently rape one of the town's young women is not original in any way, and I question how an army like that can take over the entire galaxy in the first place. All of the soldiers are one-dimensional, cardboard cutouts that exist only for one reason: to set up the protagonist to save the damsel in distress. The first instance that we see how unruly and barbaric a couple of soldiers are, we know that this is the case, and we know what's going to happen. It eliminates all mystery and surprise from the story. What amazes me is that the very basics in creative writing and storytelling are missing from this movie. Having the soldiers be nothing more than a group of chaotic, overbearing sexual predators does nothing to establish the antagonist as a formidable force in the galaxy. Imagine, work with me here, imagine if Darth Vader's first inclination in Star Wars was to rape Princess Leia. It would serve no purpose but to minimize the threat posed by him.
Put it on visual.
This is only the start of so many story issues with Rebel Moon that originates directly from the script. It's poorly written and allows for nothing more than the most basic and animalistic motivations to endure in the characters. I mean, I find it simply amazing that Zack Snyder thought that the best way to introduce our protagonist is through a 7-minute exposition dump that starts at 40 minutes and 50 seconds and ends at 47 minutes and 30 seconds. You cannot create empathy for your main character just by telling the audience about your protagonist for 7 minutes. 40 minutes into the movie, by the way.
It'll give me time to catch up on my reading.
What makes Rebel Moon even worse is that the majority of the movie is nothing more than going out to find our 7 musketeers to fight the sex-hungry rapist army of the Imperium. There is a scene that is similar to the bar scene in Star Wars. Zack Snyder here, he does it again. He has no original ideas to create tension in the scene. So he resorts to the most basic and animalistic desires of a one-dimensional character. A large and less than attractive alien man comes over wanting sex from Gunnar. Really? Just out of the blue. Again, you had to resort to sex as a device to create tension in this scene, just so you can show how tough Kora is and beat up a 250-pound character in the bar. And if that wasn't bad enough, Your best idea to show how Kora and Gunnar are going to find General Titus is to yell it out in the middle of the bar? Now, I could go on and bring up more examples of where Zack Snyder uses the most basic of story setups and motivations for things that need to happen in this movie for his story to work. They do nothing to elevate the plot, tension, or likability of any of the characters. We care nothing about them because the script has failed at every opportunity to create a situation that endears us to them. This movie doesn't remind me of Star Wars or Dune or any other movie. What it does remind me of is The Witcher Blood Origins with spaceships.
Sad, but true.
The one thing that Zack Snyder can do is create strong visuals in his movies. You have to give him that. He is a very good technical director. He has a good understanding of creating a mood through visual effects, both practical and CGI. But there are things that completely destroy any benefit these visuals give his story. Now, he definitely overuses the slow motion effect, but that can be forgivable and actually appeal to a lot of fans. The real issue that I see is with the dialogue. 90% of the dialogue in Rebel Moon is exposition, or it's an on-the-nose description of something we already assumed or knew. The script uses a basic formula that is consistent with writers who lack the very basic understanding of how story mechanics work. Our protagonists go to a new place and we are told exactly what is happening, who the important new characters are, what the problem is, and then we are told how the characters need to resolve it. Rebel Moon does this over and over until we get to the final scene and there's a completely nonsensical ending that is meant again only to show how badass our protagonist Kora is. She can run through a tiny battle area and not even get hit. As a matter of fact, it's more like she's completely invisible. The use of plot armor does nothing to convince the audience that our protagonist is a kick-ass warrior. It just tells us that you have no ideas to turn your vision of Kora into a believable reality. So you instead rely on plot armor to make sure she gets to a tension-filled ending with a one-on-one fight with our main protagonist. Kora is nothing more than another Mary Sue, born in the manger of Zack Snyder. I've actually met Sofia Boutella a couple of times, and she at best weighs 110 pounds. I weigh 195 pounds, and I was a kickboxer for 8 years. If you swapped her out for a 5'4", 110-pound male, would you still believe in how the fight scenes resolve themselves? The writers have to introduce backstories that allow physically smaller characters like Kora to do what they do, whether it's going to be a stronger gravity or some sort of genetic mutation. In Underworld, we never once doubted that Kate Beckinsale as Celine was the kick-ass vampire hunter that she was, or Mila Jovovich as Alice was the believable badass that she was in Resident Evil. And when the sheer physics render a 100-pound character useless against a 250-pound one, give the audience a reason that our protagonist can physically defeat such a foe. Otherwise, it's not believable. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm giving Rebel Moon Part 1 a score of 5.5. If you like what you heard, I thank you for watching and invite you to subscribe to Poprageous, join our community. And if you didn't like what you heard, thank you all the same. And we'll see you in our next video.